Alright, so today I'm going to talk about a hybrid build I developed around a CC Stagger oriented style of gameplay. The build is compatible with both PvP and PvE. I had a couple requests to cover more of the farming aspect in the Dark Zone because, anyone can go in there and attempt to kill players. They can go to the lower DZs and harass solo players. That's not what we're about here. I got a specific request for something that would be compatible with both farming and PvP, and would be easy to use in both situations. So this is my answer to that. It may not be the most accessible gear set in the game, but it's fairly easy to acquire. It's going to revolve around 4-piece Reclaimer, which is very strong right now, and I know a lot of people don't like it. They don't like the special ammo, but it works. It's very strong. It's very effective. So whether or not you like it, if you're trying to get a build that's good for farming, that's very good for defending yourself in PvP, this is a solid way to go. It is oriented towards team play. It does work best when paired with another Reclaimer set, and you guys can use both special ammo types at the same time. But it does function by itself because you're always going to have the explosive ammo, and from a PvE perspective, it's very functional in the sense that you have a lot of CC. So your primary weapon is going to be a shotgun for this build. I'll talk about that in a couple minutes, go over why I'm using that. But, don't pay attention to the primary meter DPS. Something I hear all too often is, oh, you're trash because your meter reads 130. Well, that's all well and good, but we do squad v squad all the time, so anyone that would like to comment that, just be prepared for me to say, okay, well, you can face us next week during squad v squad, because meter DPS is not the most important statistic. It is not even relevant since they put in the PvP 20% buff, so I do not pay attention to it, and I would urge everyone else to not pay attention to it as well. Now I'm going to talk about all of my gear, then I'm going to talk about my weapons, my skills, my talents, and then I'll actually show the character sheet. I got some feedback for that as well, to show my critical hit chance and all that different stuff directly from the character sheet. So starting off, I have 4-piece Reclaimer. Now for those that don't know, 4-piece Reclaimer revolves around consumables, using them and applying them to your entire team, which is an extremely strong mechanic right now, considering there are some very useful consumables. Okay, you can use things that buff your damage to elites by 20%, which is really nice. You can use things that decrease your cooldown for the entire group. That's nice for getting your skills back, especially pairs well with triage. And you can use the special ammo types. Now they do have Stagger implemented on the explosive bullets. So that's what this is going to revolve around, using explosive bullets all the time. So I have a really nice Reclaimer vest. Talking about the individual attributes on the vest, really great armor roll. That's something you definitely want to do to achieve the armor cap. EDR, which is nice for surviving flamethrowers and grenades and things like that in the Dark Zone, so that's a great roll as well. Increased kill XP, not essential, but it's nice to have. And skill attributes, first aid, self-heal. This is the best skill attribute in my opinion, so I'm really glad I rolled this on my chest piece. Overall, a really solid chest piece, one of the highlights of this build, and one of the things that makes it functional. Really nice stamina roll there as well. In the mods, I have stamina with skill power for both of them. Skill power does really well to augment your heal, make it stronger. It also helps with pulse if you're choosing to run that. It also helps with support station if you are choosing to take advantage of the 2-piece bonus for 100% support station healing speed. The skill power will again help that. So you have a really strong support station that's going to help your teammates if you are in a squad. And you also have a very strong heal for yourself and a very strong pulse if you're not in a squad. So moving on to my backpack, I have a Reclaimer support pack. It has a really nice stamina roll. It has skill power on it. I would say if you're going for a Reclaimer, always roll skill power on your backpack and your mask. Now, you could roll critical hit, damage on your backpack for a nice large chunk, but you're not going to be the primary damage dealer in a squad if you are rolling with a party. You will be able to do damage, but you're more the crowd control. You're more utility. You're oriented towards supporting your teammates. And in a solo play situation, you might actually want to switch out skill power for pulse critical hit damage, or just critical hit damage in general in the major attribute slot, but you don't actually have to do that. I would actually recommend running skill power. It's gonna beef up your skills no matter what you're choosing to run in a really positive way. So ammo capacity is nice to have. It's not critical, but it really is good to have a couple pieces of gear with that. So if you are pressed for time and you are restocking, you don't have to switch your entire gear set to get enough ammo. The skill attributes are not useful to me. If I were to use a sticky bomb, it might be a little bit useful, but it's not actually, all that critical to the build. I would prefer things that augment pulse and heal. And that's about it for the backpack. Overall, it's a good piece, but as you can see really quickly, it is a 214. I am not using all 268 pieces, specifically for the reason that a lot of people don't have enough time to farm, excessively and get hundreds of 268 pieces and pick and choose between them and min-max everything. A lot of people are stuck with, making do with what they have, and this is a really good example of that. I'm also going to be using 2 high ends, which I'll talk about in a second. Moving down to my holster, I have a really nice Reclaimer holster at 268. I got lucky with this drop. The skill attribute of sticky bomb damage is the only thing I would change if given the option to. But, you know, it has a good firearms roll, not so great on the stamina roll, could be much, much higher, and same with the electronics, but it'll work, and it has a really great armor roll. And I would always suggest rolling armor in the major attribute slot on your holster, because that's going to allow you to reach the armor cap in as easy a way as possible and allow you to use your mod slots for something like skill power or critical hit damage, or critical hit chance, I should say, and anything else that you really feel is valuable. You're not going to have to roll armor in your mods so that you can achieve that armor cap. So again, just to recap really quickly, chest piece and holster, it's critical to roll armor as a major attribute. All the other pieces, it's really user's preference, but that's, just my honest opinion and what I think people should be doing. So moving on to my pads, I have a really great, set of Reclaimer 268 pads here. Got lucky with this roll as well. Really awesome stamina roll. Looking for the mid to higher 700 range is what you really want to be doing, because that's the highest that 268s can roll, and it's really going to boost your stats. Rolling in the 600s versus rolling in the 700s may not seem like a huge difference from piece to piece, but if you have 3 different pieces that are in the 600s versus the 700s, that's equivalent to equipping 3 additional armor mods in your gear. So it's really important to look for these higher rolls whenever possible. And if you do get a very high rolled 240, it can be better than a 268, so just keep that in mind when you're looking through. I did roll armor in the major attribute slot over critical hit damage because I am achieving that armor cap without having to use gear mods, and because I'm not the primary, damage dealer. I am actually someone who's going to be CCing enemies, who's using, the Reclaimer bonus to give myself explosive bullets, to get those staggers off, and to help my team in general, and I'm not really going to be the one running in there face tanking and soloing things, but from a solo play perspective, it does still work. So you are tanky enough to survive pretty much anything you need to. You do have enough damage to drop enemies and enough CC to defend yourself and keep those enemies from fighting back. So it does work from a solo play perspective, but it is best used in a team play perspective. So moving on to my 2 high ends, I'm going to start with this mask here. Some people may say that I shouldn't be using this. I disagree completely. The tactical mask with Tenacious, I think, is a really, really great augment to any style of play. Increases weapon damage by 10% for 10 seconds when using a medkit. Now, I find that I'm using medkits quite often. They drop fairly frequently. You can carry up to 9 if you were to use the paramedic pack and 2 pieces of alpha bridge, which I don't do, but it's very easy to get up to 7 if you use just the paramedic pack, I should say. And it's a really good thing to be using, because for 10 seconds, after 7 different times, and when you pick them up off the ground, you can use them as well, you're going to start to get this 10% increased damage. And that does help you drop NPCs, and it really works in a PvP arena or, style of gameplay where, you're hitting your medkit at low health, proccing critical save or something like that, getting bonus damage resistance as well as bonus increased damage output. And in the end, it's a really strong mechanic that can help you survive and actually win a lot of PvP encounters. So I have a lot of faith that I place in Tenacious. I think it's a great talent, and I actually use it in this build. So try that out. Let me know what you think. I do have a firearms mod with armor in this slot. That is the one piece that I needed to use to achieve the armor cap. I'm actually, I'm not perfect. I didn't get all the best possible rolls. I would be able to easily achieve this if I had rolled a little bit higher on my pads and, maybe my holster. But right now, a firearms mod with some armor is not the worst thing in the world, and the firearms is actually what's allowing me to unlock all of the different talents on my guns, so that's nice as well. Having over 28, 25 is going to allow you to unlock pretty much every useful gun talent in the game that relies on firearms, so that's an important number to keep your eye on as well in terms of main stats. Moving on to these Savage Gloves. These are not a perfect roll. These could be much better. I use these in pretty much all my builds that feature Savage because they have a really great firearms roll and they have the Savage talent, but they do not have the perfect trio of major attributes. Now, critical hit chance, assault rifle damage, and damage to elites, I would prefer to be critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and then the main weapon damage type of whatever I'm going to be using. In this case, it would be shotgun damage or possibly SMG damage. Now, these will work a lot better if I were to use an assault rifle, but I'm not going to be doing that right now. And just keep in mind that having that perfect trio of major attributes on your gloves is one of the best ways to raise your damage output overall. The little bit of a consolation prize is that the skill attribute is first aid self-heal, so that's valuable for keeping me alive in a lot of situations. So moving on to my weapons, the main weapon I'm going to be using all the time is this Black Market SASG 12S. Deadly, vicious, and determined. I like determined in this situation because I am going to be relying heavily on skills. I'm going to be doing, shooting my heels on the ground for teammates, things like that. It could be something much better though. Anything like responsive or competent would pair very nicely with the shotgun and the really high base damage that they have. So Determined is not the best possible third slot skill, but it is quite good. And for my purposes, it's gonna, do nicely. Deadly is a really nice one to have, and paired with Vicious is really good as well, because I am going to be operating in my overheal a majority of the time. So when I'm in my overheal with Vicious active, Deadly is going to get a lot more value. So I do enjoy this. I think that's a synergistic talent combination, and the gun could be better. Some people may prefer to use an M870 or something like that. I use the SASG, and I actually mod it a little bit differently. I'm going to talk about that real fast. I use magazine size with rate of fire. Now, a lot of people would be saying, you have to use weapon damage, but the reason I'm doing this is because rate of fire on an SASG makes it fire significantly faster, first of all, and second of all, since you're going for that CC effect, because you have built-in stagger chance of 271.5% on this shotgun, paired with the fact that you're going to be using explosive bullets all the time. You're going to be staggering targets basically every single time you shoot. You're going to stagger, the targets around them with the explosive bullets. It's just going to be a really solid mechanic. And in terms of NPCs and farming in the higher DZs, you're going to have a lot of crowd control. It's going to really help your team progress through content in an easy way. So that's why I'm using this. Outside of that, the mods aren't really important. It's really user's preference. You can use whatever you'd like. But the reason I have magazine size rate of fire is for that reason, for being a CC, utility player. My MP7 is just standard. Whatever secondary gun you want to use, whether it's an M1A, an MP7, an assault rifle of any kind, that's totally up to the user. And it really doesn't really change how the build functions as a whole. So zooming out, I'm going to talk about my abilities, then my talents, and then I'll show my character sheet really quickly. I am using Pulse and Heal right now. Pulse with Tactical Scanner to give me more damage. This could easily be changed out for the support station with Ammo Cache or Immunizer or anything like that to take advantage of the Reclaimer 2-piece bonus. So anybody that would like to do that, they're welcome to. It is a very nice way to help your squad, but from a solo play perspective, it's not really going to help all that much. Maybe the self revive would be valuable if you are playing solo and get dropped by an NPC. You can self revive, get another shot at it. But right now I am using Pulse, although I will just again put in a disclaimer. This is not a perfect build, so anyone that wants to use some kind of support station is welcome to do so. It is quite functional. I'm also using my heal with Overdose. That's pretty much what I use on everything now. As you can see, my self-heal is about 60,000, 61,000. That's really nice, keeps me alive in a lot of situations. It could be higher, but it is a good heal, and it does, really, it zooms my health bar back up to almost full every time I use it. It's really helpful, and it has a really low recharge rate, so 27.6 seconds. Now, one thing that's important to note, again, sorry, this video is going to actually go on quite a bit longer than normal. There's a lot to cover, and this is a really interesting build, I think, is that the cooldown of both your heal and of the Reclaimer consumables is impacted by the decreased cooldowns from Determined. So this third talent here actually pairs not only with getting your heal back faster and not only with getting your pulse back faster, but it also pairs nicely with getting your consumables recharged faster. So that's another reason why I said it pairs nicely with having a second Reclaimer who can also pop, the other special ammo types. So you can have incendiaries and explosives active at all times, and then by the time that's, that duration has run out, you've definitely got it back again. So basically you can have yourself and your partner, if you are two-manning it, both with Reclaimer, constantly have both the special ammo types and give it to the entire rest of your team if you choose to have, other people in your squad. So it does function from a solo play perspective, but it is really best paired with another Reclaimer and, a squad. So moving on to my talents, I've actually mixed this up a little bit. These are a little bit different than what I normally use. I've taken out On the Move. It's not as good as I've been previously, thinking. So right now I use a different set of 4. Heal an ally with a skill to reduce skill cooldowns by 15%. Triage, really broken talent right now. I think that everyone in a squad should always be running this. I'm actually hoping that they nerf this, to be quite honest. I know people hate when, stuff gets taken away from them and they hate nerfs, but this is actually breaking the game. There's actually stalemates between teams now, as I've demonstrated in a squad v squad video a few weeks ago. You just can't kill each other because you constantly have heals and it's just one big ball of infinite health. Now we have Critical Save. I do keep this on there. It does pair nicely with Tenacious. I think it's a really solid talent, and I'll probably keep using it on pretty much every build. It makes your medkits worth it, especially if you're in that last health bar. Really solid talent. I then use Strike Back, reach low health to reduce active skill cooldowns by 20%. This is valuable for me because, you know, I do want to pop my heal constantly, and especially from a solo play perspective, if you are by yourself, having that 20% reduced cooldown on your heal can save your life in a lot of situations fighting NPCs. So it's a very valuable talent. And then One is None. This interacts very nicely with a shotgun because the 50% chance is per pellet, not per shot. So every time you hit a target with a headshot, you're probably actually not going to consume the bullet if you're using a shotgun. It's nearly 100% chance if you land all the pellets to not do so. So it's really, you know, it synergizes well with shotguns, especially the SASG, so you can pump out headshots quickly, get the stagger, keep getting your rounds back, and your magazine is almost infinite. It's a really nice combination. So now I'm actually going to look at my character sheet really quickly. I did have some requests for that. So firearms, stamina, my base health pool is almost 110,000. 109 you can see there. I like that a lot. It protects me from a lot of different things. It's a little bit lower than it could be. Some people are up at 120, 130 range. I'm not quite there. I do actually have some firearms to unlock all my talents, but that's a conscious choice. And then critical hit chance, 27.5%. That's because of Vicious, but with Pulse, I will nearly max out, so that's very nice. And with a shotgun, that's super powerful. Crit damage and headshot damage are not as great as they could be, but headshot damage, 70%, that's really nice. Helps my shotgun quite a bit. And 53% on critical hit damage, you know, mostly because of Deadly giving me half of that bonus, is nice as well. Outside of that, I don't think there's much else valuable on the character sheet, but I'll scroll through really quickly in case anyone has, you know, other things. They can just pause the video and look. This is all of them, and we're done there. So I'm going to throw it over to some gameplay, talk about it, you know, show not only PvP, but PvE as well, and show both the different sides of this build functioning in the Dark Zone. Okay, to start off, we're going to talk about some PvE. As you can see, I pop explosive bullets, and I go down, and the stagger happens all the time. So that was a very fast kill because we were team shooting, but, you know, every time I shoot, the explosive bullets are pretty much proccing on at least one of the pellets. They do get the stagger, not only from the gun stagger chance, but from, you know, the explosions. And since I do have a second reclaimer with me, we are both popping, so we have both the bonuses active. There is, you know, a UI glitch, and you can't see on my character that I have both the bonuses active. Unless you look above my head, it shows incendiary, you know, bullets, and below my health bar in the little, you know, tooltip area, it shows explosive bullets. So that's the way that you can check. I do have both bonuses active right now. As I said, this is best paired with a second reclaimer. It's an extremely potent combination right now, and I think it's one of the best ways to farm. Now, it does hold up very well in PvP. I'll show some clips of that later on. But, you know, it translates very well and it'll allow you to farm the Dark Zone quite easily. If they're not staggered, they're on fire. The NPCs are. So you are either staggering something with every shot or lighting it on fire and allowing you to then stagger it after. It's a really great combination, and I think it's a little bit underutilized in the Dark Zone in terms of, you know, ease of farming and things like that. So as you can see here, we do get a supply drop. We popped an ultimate so I could tank through. We got it. And now we're going to fight the NPCs. And directly after this, someone actually went rogue on us. It was only a squad of 2, and I'm not entirely sure why they did it. But, you know, maybe they were angry because we took the supply drop and they really wanted to get it. But, you know, it does show that it translates very, very quickly and very easily from PvE to PvP and functions quite well. So as you can see, the CC is very good. I get a stagger or, you know, an incendiary proc on pretty much everything. I did face tank there and go down. That's my own fault. I probably shouldn't have done that. But at the same time, you know, it's fine. It showcases that I am not invincible and that you have to still be careful. You can't run straight up to enemies, especially something like an LMG, and face tank it because they will drop you. These 2 guys did go rogue. They killed one of our squad, but outside of that, they couldn't really do much. It was a little bit of a drawn-out fight, but showing that the special ammo types are as strong as they are in PvP is something that, you know, was requested. So, you know, looking at the way the shotgun functions against them, like, they will be staggered. The shotgun stagger chance that's built right into the gun does not apply to PvP. The devs did something really interesting that I found kind of hilarious. They said in one of their State of the Games, they said, okay, nobody likes being staggered, so we're not going to make the shotgun stagger chance apply to PvP. Well, what did they do? They went right around and then made explosive bullets stagger the enemy. So they refused to put in one stagger mechanic and then put in a different one that's almost just as bad and can apply to the whole team. So I don't really know why they did it, but that's how it works. So the explosive bullets are extremely strong. Now, they differ a little bit from shock turrets. They're not actually lockdown CC. And what I mean by lockdown CC is something where the target is locked in place the entire time. They're actually soft CC is what I call it. So a stagger means the target is moving. They're not locked in place, unable to do anything, but they are not able to shoot during that time. And for a very limited time, they're not able to pop abilities. It's not like Disrupt, though, where it lasts a long time. You know, they are able to pop abilities quickly after that, but while they are staggered, they can't do anything. And since they are getting staggered, you know, almost with every single shot, and if every other shot maybe, that's a long time where they can't do anything. As you can see, I keep staggering them. Players are staggering all over the place, and while they're staggered, they're not, you know, firing their gun. They're not outputting damage, which allows my team to progressively gain more and more of an upper hand. That, you know, they can heal each other, sure, but you know, they're backpedaling. It's very difficult for them to get back into the fight when they're staggering so often. Maybe popping an ultimate would work, but you know, not always. As you can see, all three of my teammates did go down because they were right in front of a flamethrower, and I went down soon after. I do want to put in some clips of us failing. You know, I think that's the only fair way to go. I feel like a lot of YouTubers will splice together a lot of great footage, and I'm actually super guilty of this in my prior videos. I'll splice together a ton of really great footage of me doing amazingly, but it's only fair to show that the build can fail. It's not going to make you invincible. It's not going to make you dominate everyone. And if I were to splice together a whole bunch of really great clips to make the build look amazing, yeah, maybe the video would appeal a little bit more to some people, but it wouldn't be realistic and wouldn't be truthful in every aspect. So I did show us, we died there. That was bad positioning on our part. We underestimated the enemy. We put up a fight, but we didn't actually, you know, win, and in the end we died. So then after that, we do go out there and we do make a real battle of it, so that's why I'm letting the clip play through. We got on the same page. We said, okay, we're going to get our positioning right, and we all went out together. Now, popping both the special ammo types in PvP is extremely strong. You know, they will either be lit on fire or staggered with nearly every shot with a shotgun due to the amount of pellets that there are, and that's going to be really annoying for them. So I am sorry to players that face against this and hate it, but it is a really strong mechanic in the metagame, and I personally think that, you know, M870's one-shotting people is an equal level of annoying, so I'm okay with using this or either. In fact, I will stay away from using the Deadeye glitch. I think that's where I draw the line completely. I will never use the Deadeye glitch in terms of headshot damage and stacking brutal infinitely in PvP. I will not do that, but other than that, double reclaimer, that's fine. I think that's on the table and something that I really don't disapprove of. You know, shock turrets, while annoying, yes, they are a metagame mechanic, and there are ways to counter them. And shotguns, you know, as strong as they are, there's ways to counter them. I think the number one way to counter them, I've actually gotten some feedback to talk about this a little bit more, is just to change your overall playstyle. I know that I can't counter a shotgun if I play the way I'm used to. I'm used to running right up to targets and thinking, okay, I can totally outdamage this target. I've got my SMG, and I'm acting like it's patch 1.1. Okay, where Sentry was bugged and everybody used SMGs and killed each other in 2 seconds and, you know, ran 3 feet away from each other in circles. That's the way I'm still treating the game, and as a result of that, I keep dying. The number one way to beat shotgunners is to adjust your own playstyle and to gain distance on them. They are useless from range. Even outside of 10, 13 meters, my SASG does not output any damage. I have to get very close, so if he were to run up to that truck and turn on me at the right time, he probably would have been able to drop me quite easily. As you can see from this distance, I do no damage. I'm either missing with most of the pellets, or they're only doing, you know, 1,000, maybe 1,800 if I'm lucky, which with 3 pellets is not that much, and it's not going to drop anyone. I have to be up close. I have to be up close and personal, and as a result, that allows them to use superior positioning to beat me if done correctly. So that's the number one way to beat the shotgun meta. It's not to build yourself super tanky. There are builds out there that can one-shot you even with, you know, 400,000 toughness. They can two-shot you with 600,000 toughness quite easily, especially if you start to get sentry stacked. It'll be quite easy for them to beat you. So, you know, building super tank is not actually the answer. The answer is to adjust, you know, your gameplay style as a whole. That's what I've found. Another thing that I wanted to address is I had some feedback that people are sick of, you know, YouTubers in particular, I'm included in this, you know, 100%, being in the lower DZs and picking on solo players. So my response to that is, as you can see right here, I did find some good PvP up in DZ 5-6 area. That's really nice, and I do look for that. But the player density of these higher DZ areas, for some reason on Xbox One, and this may be different on PC, this may be different on PS4, is lacking, you know, severely. So the player density up here is not, you know, it's not good enough where I can get clips that show fast-paced PvP combat against multiple enemies. I might be able to find a squad of 2 or a squad of 3 or something like that, but no one really wants to see. It's the same story. If you have a squad of 4 or a squad of 3 and you find a squad of 1 or 2, you can pick on them and you can kill them, but the only difference is that both of you will probably be dropped by overpowered NPCs, blatantly overpowered NPCs. So that's the difference, and I don't think anybody wants to see that. So when I can find good PvP in DZ5 and 6, I will always do so, and I appreciate the feedback that's pointing me in that direction. But if I can't, if I do have to go to the lower DZs to find larger groups of players to showcase how the build functions in a hectic PvP environment, I am going to continue to do that. And I will always make it my best effort to not camp at checkpoints, to not clap on bodies. We're not about that here at Upper Echelon. We think, like, I always try to remember what it's like for me. If I get beat by someone, I mean, that's punishment enough. I don't need them to clap. Like, I would not like that feeling. I don't like that feeling when it happens. So I'm not going to do that to other players. The only time I will do that is if someone, specifically, like, antagonizes me, which, it does happen. It happened with those two players earlier. Earlier in the clip, those two players that went rogue on us, they'd actually done it a few times, and they had always gone for me for some reason. So they would specifically, pop both their ultimates and only kill me repeatedly, despite the fact that they knew they would get wiped. So in those situations, I don't respect it, but it's going to happen. And I will, from now on, continue to look for footage in DZ5 and 6. So that feedback has been incorporated. I will do my best to incorporate and, in a constructive way, all of the feedback that I get. It helps me improve as a creator when you guys give me feedback. So I appreciate that a lot. And moving forward, I will always try to do that. Incorporate what you want into the videos and make videos about the things that you're interested in. So thank you. Any constructive feedback or criticism in the comments below is super welcomed. The community is growing really fast and at a really great pace. It's become amazing, and I couldn't be happier. I will do another shirt at 10,000 subscribers should I be blessed enough to reach that number, and hopefully that happens soon. I will make it a really great design and launch it for people. And one last announcement, the Facebook community is going to expand into an instant messaging grouping service application where one of our members is spearheading that. So stay tuned if you do have trouble finding a squad. Subscribe to the Facebook group, go there and join. I'll approve you. You can get in there, match up maybe, and we are looking at better ways to matchmake using messaging apps and things like that for people. So there's a lot coming in terms of grouping, and it might help solo players, get more out of the content, progress through it faster, and get better gear. So that's really exciting, and hopefully everybody takes advantage of that. As always, thank you for supporting, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.